Welcome to Fun Facts Daily, your source for just the good stuff. Monday through Friday, we're bringing fun facts and news you can use, all carefully curated to uplift and inform. So give yourself a break, relax, and learn something awesome in just a few minutes every day. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Wood, and today we're going to be learning all about snowboarding. But before we get into the facts, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge to see if you can tell truth from fiction. Consider this. When you think about snowboarding, you obviously picture cold weather, winter jackets, and snow-covered mountains. But would you believe there's an even more extreme version of the sport where riders use snowboards to slide down the side of active volcanoes in sweltering heat? What do you think? Have some extreme sports enthusiasts taken the snow out of snowboarding? We'll find out at the end of the episode. Now for your word of the day. Today's word is goofy. That's Goofy. In the world of board sports like snowboarding, skateboarding, and surfing, goofy describes a specific stance where the rider stands with their right foot forward at the front of the board. This is the opposite of the so-called regular stance where the left foot is forward. While the name might sound like a childish insult, it's actually the standard technical term used by professionals and instructors worldwide. And while the term goofy would generally suggest that it's irregular, roughly 30 to 40% of riders prefer this stance naturally. The term actually originated from pop culture, specifically cartoons. In a 1937 Disney cartoon titled Hawaiian Holiday, the character of Goofy goes surfing. Unlike the other characters, Goofy rides the waves with his right foot forward. Surfers in the 1950s noticed this detail and began calling that stance Goofy Foot. The terminology stuck, eventually migrating from the beaches of California to the snowy slopes of mountains everywhere. Time for your daily high five, our top 5 fun facts about snowboarding. Number 1. Modern snowboarding was invented on Christmas Day to entertain some bored kids. In 1965, an engineer named Sherman Poppen was looking for a way to get his daughters out of the house. He took his 2 kids' skis, bolted them together side by side, and attached a rope to the nose for steering. His wife Nancy gave it a name combining the words snow and surfer. They called it Snurfer. It was an instant hit with his kids and their friends, eventually leading Poppen to license the idea as a toy that sold over 1 million units, paving the way for the modern snowboard. The sport really evolved and took off when a young man named Jake Burton Carpenter began modifying his Snurfer. He applied engineering principles to the design, adding rubber straps to secure the feet to the board, which allowed for much greater control and higher speeds than a simple rope could handle. This transition from a stand-up sled to a board with bindings helped the backyard toy evolve into a legitimate Olympic sport. Number 2. There's a remote village that's been snowboarding for centuries. While Sherman Poppen is the father of modern snowboards, the villagers of Patron in Turkey have been riding sideways for 400 years. They use wooden planks called lazboards that feature a steering rope and a stick held in the backhand for balance. Historically, this wasn't done for recreation, but out of necessity to transport goods and people between villages when heavy snow blocked the roads. The single large plank provided better surface area displacement, similar to a snowshoe, preventing the rider from sinking into the powder. And the steering stick they hold acts like a rudder, allowing them to lean and carve through the snow. Number 3. Snowboarding is responsible for revolutionizing how skis are made. If you looked at skis in the 1980s, they were long, straight, and skinny, but modern skis are wider and have an hourglass shape that makes for easier turning. This innovation, known as the sidecut, was popularized by snowboard designers who needed boards that could turn sharply on a single edge. Ski manufacturers eventually saw how well this worked and adopted the new technology, creating the parabolic or shaped skis we see today. So, in a way, every modern skier has snowboarders to thank for their easier turns. The physics behind this is fascinating. When a board with a curved side cut is tipped on its edge, it naturally flexes into an arc. This arc cuts a curved path into the snow, guiding the rider in a perfect circle without them having to skid to force the turn. Before this innovation, skiers had to physically lift and twist their skis to change direction, but the hourglass shape allows the geometry of the equipment to do the heavy lifting for you. Number 4. The world speed record for a snowboard is faster than a hurricane. Snowboarders can reach incredible velocities. The world record for the fastest speed on a snowboard was set by Edmund Plawsick, who clocked in at 126 miles per hour, or 203 kilometers an hour. To put that in perspective, that is faster than the takeoff speed of some small airplanes, and wind speeds that fast would qualify as a Category 3 hurricane. Achieving this speed requires a deep understanding of aerodynamics. Riders going for these extreme speeds wear special rubberized suits that reduce air resistance, and they wear helmets designed to smooth out the airflow over their shoulders. At these speeds, the air becomes like a solid wall. Reducing the drag, the force of air pushing against you, becomes just as important as gravity. Even a tiny wrinkle in a jacket could create just enough turbulence to slow the rider down, or worse, throw them off balance. And our fifth and final fun fact for today: the massive halfpipes you see in the Olympics wouldn't exist without a monster machine called the pipe dragon. In the early days of snowboarding, halfpipes were dug by hand with shovels, which resulted in lumpy, uneven walls that were difficult and sometimes dangerous to ride. In the early 1990s, a farmer and inventor named Doug Waugh created a machine called the pipe dragon, which was essentially a giant curved grooming tool attached to a tractor. This invention allowed ski resorts to cut perfectly smooth, curved walls out of the snow, enabling riders to go much faster and launch much higher into the air. The engineering brilliance of the pipe dragon was its ability to create a consistent transition, the curve that connects the flat bottom of the pipe with the vertical wall. Without a smooth transition, a rider's momentum is absorbed by bumps, preventing them from generating the G-forces needed to launch out of the pipe. This machine standardized halfpipes around the world, allowing athletes to train on consistent terrain and push the boundaries of physics with triple cork spins that were once thought impossible. Now for some news you can use. If you want to learn to snowboard, instead of just diving in, pointing your board straight downhill, which builds up too much speed and leads to crashes, keep your board sideways on your heel edge. You want to be basically perpendicular to the slope. Slide across the mountain to the left, then stop, and slide back to the right, all while staying on the same heel edge. You'll sway back and forth down the run just like a leaf falling from a tree. This allows you to safely navigate steep or icy terrain without ever losing control or picking up too much speed. When your board is flat on the snow, there's very little friction, so gravity pulls you down the hill quickly. By lifting your toes and digging your heels into the snow, you increase that friction, and this acts as your brakes. As you get more comfortable, you can experiment with how much you dig your heels in, press hard to stop completely, or ease up to slide and glide. Just remember, if you catch the downhill edge, the edge facing down the mountain, the board will stop instantly and momentum will throw you forward. So always keep your weight focused on the uphill edge. And finally, the moment you've been waiting for. At the beginning of the episode, I asked, are there people actually snowboarding on active volcanoes? Well, believe it or not, that's a fact. If you travel to the Cerro Negro volcano in Nicaragua, you can participate in a sport called volcano boarding. Riders slide down the side of a volcano on specially reinforced plywood boards, surfing over coarse volcanic ash and small rocks. Because of the friction from the rocks and the heat from the volcano, it's considered an extreme sport, but it proves you don't always need snow to shred on the mountain. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about snowboarding with me today. Be sure to tune in every weekday for even more fun facts. Fun Facts Daily is an Airwave Media podcast. It was written, recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Kyle Wood. Thanks for sharing a part of your day with me. Be sure to follow Fun Facts Daily on your favorite podcast app so you can keep the good stuff coming your way every day. And if you like the show, please do me a favor and leave a kind rating, review, or just tell your friends about it.